COVID-19 symptoms. From nose to toes, the list keeps growing. Experts are learning that the coronavirus attacks the body on multiple fronts. People with COVID-19 might lose their sense of smell and taste, have shortness of breath or bouts of diarrhea, or develop a rash on their toes. This video brought to you by HealthyRN Ways. Videos will be posted every Monday, Wednesday and Friday about COVID-19 pandemic. To see my other videos, click the end card at the end of this video. Remember way back when the new coronavirus was just hitting the United States and around the world a year ago. CDC told the public to be on the lookout for fever, dry cough, and shortness of breath. Now more than 2.5 million people in the United States, and millions more around the world have gotten sick with COVID-19, and the list of symptoms is growing. At the end of April 2020, the CDC officially supplemented the original 3 signs of infection with 6 more: chills, repeated shaking with chills, muscle pain, headache, sore throat, and new loss of taste and smell. Since then, they've added more symptoms to the list: fatigue, congestion or runny nose, nausea or vomiting, and diarrhea. As doctors see more and more patients, they're continuing to identify new ways that infection with SARS-CoV-2, the official name of the novel coronavirus, can manifest itself. Many of these are symptoms you would have with any infection, but we're learning more as time goes by, and I expect what we know will be changing in the weeks to come. While keeping up with the news on symptoms can be challenging, knowing the latest is vital for public health. If people don't recognize signs of COVID-19, they may not seek medical care until they're very sick, or they might not isolate themselves and will go on to infect other people. With each passing week, doctors are learning that the virus may attack the body in ways that are unexpected, and that assumptions about how the infection reveals itself don't always hold true. Already, some of the developing research has been surprising. Get helpful tips or share your advice to help inspire and enable self-care during the pandemic. 1. Fever is not always a key indicator. One of the unexpected developments for Nursimhan has been in regard to fever, or the lack thereof. Nursimhan and a group of doctors working at hospitals in the Northwell health system found that more than 2/3 of the 5,700 patients studied did not have a fever and yet were sick enough to need to be hospitalized. It was really surprising because one of the screens we do for people and for nurses to go back to work is a temperature screen. If people never develop a fever, it may not be such an accurate screen, and we may be allowing people to come back to work who may be infected. The lack of fever is a deceptive marker. Although fever was not as prevalent in COVID-19 patients as she expected, Nursimhan stresses that it is still an indicator of infection, and a good portion of the patients had a high temperature upon hospital admission. 30.7% were febrile, according to the investigation. Some of them had very high fevers of up to 103, and some of them had low-grade fevers. 2. Very low oxygen levels don't always cause severe respiratory symptoms. As someone who treats COVID-19 patients in the intensive care unit, Nursimhan has found the most common symptoms that bring patients into the hospital are cough and shortness of breath. Usually, they have had those symptoms for about a week before they come into the hospital. A lot of them complain about a very dry throat. When they breathe in, they may have a pain in the chest. But even those without obvious respiratory symptoms could have dangerously low oxygen levels. Almost 28% required supplemental oxygen. Nursimhan stresses that the study provided one snapshot in time, at triage, and many more needed oxygens during their hospital stay, but the study did not look at that. She cautions that some patients come in with very low oxygen levels but aren't displaying severe respiratory symptoms and don't realize how dire their situation is. Their rapid breathing may be compensating for a type of silent hypoxia or oxygen depletion. We are definitely seeing people with profoundly low oxygen levels who have no idea how low their oxygen is until they come into the hospital. 3. The virus may block the sense of smell. Primarily, has seen common respiratory symptoms, such as shortness of breath, and double pneumonia, an infection in both lungs, also called bilateral pneumonia, that causes the alveoli to become inflamed and fill with fluid or pus. Several patients exhibited the loss of smell, or anosmia, which the CDC recently added to its symptoms list. Because smell is so closely tied with taste, anosmia typically disturbs this sense as well. A young man in New Zealand, before being officially diagnosed with the COVID-19, described having a foul metallic taste in his mouth after eating tomato sauce. The virus could be targeting the central nervous system, where it infects neurons in the nasal passage and interferes with the senses of smell and taste. This attack on the nervous system may be causing a small subset of patients to experience confusion, seizures, and other brain ailments. 4. Infection may disrupt the gut as well. The virus not only robbed his 91-year-old mother of her ability to smell and taste, it also caused a severe bout of diarrhea. She had none of the usual respiratory symptoms. We know that the virus can bind and invade epithelial cells, lining the airways, in the respiratory system, but there are epithelial cells in the GI tract as well. Stool samples have tested positive for the virus. Because COVID-19 testing has largely focused on patients with respiratory symptoms, not digestive symptoms, it is possible there is a large cohort of undiagnosed patients with low-severity illness but with digestive symptoms, such as diarrhea, who unknowingly spread the virus. 5. COVID-19 may reach down to the toes. Some children and young adults with COVID-19 have been exhibiting a frostbite-like coloration on the toes, showed photos of purple-red papule lesions on the fingers and toes of young patients. Doctors have seen a variety of kinds of unusual skin findings in both adults and children infected with SARS-CoV-2, another name for the virus. Rashes aren't on the CDC official list, but they are something that I'm hearing more about anecdotally. Some hospitals have been seeing the rash in children along with other symptoms, such as a fever of 102 to 104 degrees Fahrenheit for at least 5 days and swelling of the lymph nodes, a rare pediatric illness that causes inflammation throughout the body and can damage the blood vessels of the heart, the coronary arteries. New York State had identified 110 children exhibiting symptoms of what the state's health department was calling. 3 children with the syndrome died. The Pediatric Intensive Care Society in London also issued an alert to doctors noting that the number of children with a multisystem inflammatory state requiring intensive care had been increasing. Doctors need to be aware that COVID-19 infection may be triggering this inflammation. Doctors can then initiate early treatment to hopefully prevent these long-term complications, such as aneurysms of the coronary arteries. The treatment usually consists of aspirin and an IV, intravenous, immunoglobulin treatment. We want to reassure parents, this appears to be uncommon. While Kawasaki disease can damage the heart or blood vessels, the heart problems usually go away in 5 or 6 weeks, and most children fully recover. I would also not be shy about asking to be tested. Part of safely opening up the country is actually going to depend on testing more people, including people who have no symptoms at all, because they can still have the virus and spread it to others. Bonus tips: can antiviral clothing protect you from coronavirus? Companies are developing fabric treatments that, if the claims are true, can destroy the novel coronavirus. The Environmental Protection Agency is evaluating a claim about a new COVID-19 fighting fabric technology. The COVID-19 pandemic is turning once commonplace products like disinfectant wipes into prized commodities. Now companies are developing what they hope will be the next big thing: fabrics treated with chemicals that, if the claims are true, can kill the novel coronavirus. While antimicrobial fabrics are not new, manufacturers of scrubs and other hospital items, for instance, have been using them for years. They are mainly designed to fight bacteria. Unlike viruses, bacteria can multiply on surfaces without a living host. But the pandemic has created an interest in antiviral fabrics, and enterprising companies are responding. Textiles treated with chemicals aimed at destroying SARS-CoV-2 particles. SARS-CoV-2 is the official name of the coronavirus that causes COVID-19, are turning up in everything from face masks to men's dress shirts. How antiviral clothing might work: A front-runner in the antiviral textile business is Intelligent Fabric Technologies North America, IFTNA, a Toronto-based biotech company that produces a fabric treatment called Protex, officially known as PROTX2AV. The company's lab tests have shown that Protex can kill 99.9% of SARS-CoV-2 particles within 10 minutes. The company is currently awaiting approval from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, to market Protex as effective at destroying the novel coronavirus. Protex is an important tool in breaking the chain of infection. Some people say there are things that are going to save everyone from COVID-19. But every surface we can prevent this virus from living on, the better for us. An example of how antiviral fabric might reduce the chance of infection for someone who touches a contaminated surface. If someone sneezes on a bench, then you sit on it and wipe your hands on your pants and then touch your nose. That's a big area where we can see Protex working. Its prevention in day-to-day life. Later this year, IFTNA plans to launch a laundry product people can use to apply its antiviral chemical to their clothes at home, and by 2021, it will debut its own underwear line of Protex-treated activewear, like jogging pants and sports bras. An infectious disease specialist weighs Lane. Infectious diseases specialists are not convinced that antiviral clothes could have a significant protective function. Unless you're licking your pants, no one is getting COVID-19 from their clothing. A study showing that the pants, made with the new antiviral fabrics, were as effective as hand sanitizer in preventing transmissions, not in killing the virus, but in preventing transmissions. The CDC and WHO consider person-to-person contact with respiratory droplets produced while talking, sneezing, or coughing to be the main mode of coronavirus transmission. The numbers of cases of COVID-19 transmitted by people who happen to touch a surface where someone recently sneezed, cases that might be prevented by wiping your hands on an antiviral fabric, are minuscule compared with the cases transmitted by droplet transmissions. That's why the CDC has de-emphasized surface transmission. The bottom line, even if COVID-19 fighting apparel begins flooding stores, the protection trifecta of mask wearing, hand washing, and social distancing recommended by infectious disease specialists won't be going anywhere anytime soon. The best-case scenario for antiviral fabrics is that they might offer another weapon in the arsenal. A lot of development is going on around the globe, from new symptoms, new vaccines, new apparels, inhalers and among others. This virus has made scientists work even harder in researching for more updates about COVID-19. Any comment and suggestion on this video write down below. Thank you for watching. See you on my next video. Ma salama.